So agenda, of course. What are we going to cover today? Just real quick on trends and drivers behind new products. Why are some of these things coming out? Why are we seeing what we're seeing? Got some interesting data. Well, interesting to me. So, your mileage may vary. Got some data I'll show you on kind of how new are the things we carry. And then let's just jump into the meat and potatoes here. New products we've seen so far in 2019. We'll wrap up with some products in the horizon for the rest of the year, and have some time for questions, concerns, comments, as usual. So let's get kicked off. So what's new in the marketplace? What drives new products? For me, it comes down to a combination of one or more of these five things. Compliance, what we mean there is both electrical, building and safety codes. Also, you got to think about AHJ-driven compliance on the interconnection side. So coming from your regulators and your utilities in your various areas. That's all kind of compliance codes and standards. Talking about more market drivers, time savings, cost savings. So manufacturers are always looking for ways to try to save you guys money and speed, try to, build value for you guys so that, you can hopefully change your brand preference and buy more of their product instead of someone else's. Time being money, we're also trying to save costs. So not just the labor, not just the ease of install, but the hard product cost as well. On the kind of more revenue side of the equation, yield improvements. So in solar, it could be a number of things. It could be nameplate capacity. It could be widening a voltage window so that the inverter stays on longer and you harvest more power. Could be things like MPPT over time. And we've come a long way as an industry, but it's easy to say, oh, we've gotten electronics as efficient as they can get, and we've gotten modules as cost effective as they're going to get. I'm one of those people that I kind of keep saying, like, boy, I don't know that modules can get that much more cost effective. You think about everything it takes to bring a module to market, from silicon all the way to arriving at a job site. How much more value can they squeeze out of that? And the answer is they still keep doing it. So there's still a frontier there on yield improvements and capacity and production. Install versus retrofit is an interesting driver because we're coming up on, and we'll see some of this in the next couple of slides here. We're coming up on the second or even third generation of some of these systems that, it's 2019 now. You think about where we've been as an industry and the types of products that were in our catalog is as far back as, even only 2005. Some of those products that got installed are being retrofitted now. You may be up on kind of the lifespan of that first system. How do you retrofit new product into old systems? So there's an industry term there called repowering that I think applies to residential as well as kind of supplementing an installation. Think about a homeowner who had maybe a 10 module system installed 8 years ago and needs have changed. Solar's become more cost effective. Maybe it's different people in the home now, and they want to add to the system. They want to supplement it. They want to add grid tie battery backup. Lots of what we would call use cases that drive specific use cases that are going to drive new product development as we get into, again, the second and third generation of systems. So I've got my little handy smart art here, just thinking about, things that we're trying to increase: production, ease of compliance, call it future-proofiness, things that we're trying to decrease cost, installation time, call it headaches. What are these things going to impact? Most of our product categories, really, as we'll see on the next slide here. Inverters, micro-inverters, optimizers, what I would call power electronics, storage products like batteries and interconnection equipment, and of course modules. They're all going to be products that there's big markets for, and when you've got a big market, it's going to drive innovation because everybody's trying to build the next great mousetrap to try to capture that market. So One of the things that makes solar very exciting, in my opinion, is kind of all of this innovation and all of this competition for your install dollars. So I was thinking about this week as I was putting these slides back together. You know, what's the average lifespan of a product? And a lot of you guys out there know I come from an inverter manufacturer before I came to AE Solar. And when I was just getting into solar, I kind of had this, I don't know, you can call it a revelation, but had this thought that solar is a really interesting place because it's one of these markets where, you know, it takes a good year and a half, 2 years, hopefully not too much more than that, to get a product from a design to market, you know, from kind of the first step of ideation of, hey, we should do this, to UL tested, certified, on the shelf, ready for orders, you know, year and a half, 2 years. And how long of a lifespan does a product like that have? I feel like in the grid tie inverter space, you know, you're lucky to see 4 years out of a set of SKUs. Now, not including firmware updates and kind of relabeling, but, you know, out of a platform, 4 years is pretty good. You know, if you can nail your product requirements, you know, in year 0 for a product that's not going to see the market until year 2, and you've got most of that market, you know, zeroed in on to year 5 and 6 out, you know, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. So that was always a really interesting dynamic for me, that you spend 2 years getting a product out to market and you're lucky to get 4 years out of it. I came into solar from electrical distribution where, you know, breakers and panels, those core designs are around for 20 and 30 years, if not longer. So just a completely different dynamic for me. So what kind of data are we looking at here? I went into our system and pulled, for all the items in our system, one was the item created in Oracle. That's our enterprise resource planning, our ERP that we use for all things product related. So I went in and looked, you know, how old is the average item here across all of these various categories. So from left to right, batteries, complete systems being like the system edge systems and solutions from Outback Power. This green bar is going to be controls and converters. So, you know, charge controllers and DC-DC converters, things of that nature. Electrical distribution, breakers, panels, disconnects. Electrical hardware will be things like terminals and jumpers, and intangible is going to be, what do we call intangible? That's going to be intangible items like promotional codes and discounts and things. So those are very short-lived. The blue bar here smack in the middle is inverters. That's a really big category for us. Labels, mechanical hardware. A couple of these are pretty small. Mounting structure. This will be side pole mounts and top pole mounts. Power systems, again, similar to those are going to be pre-wired, like FP1 through FPR and the quick fit from Schneider Electric. Modules. So a couple things I wanted to point out here, and the first of which is modules, that the average lifespan of a module in our portfolio, and we're talking one specific watt class, is less than a year. Of what we've got on our shelves, and not including what's phased out, you know, less than a year for a module watt class. Going back to inverters, just a tick over 4 years on the average inverter item. And in looking through, in cross-referencing this data with a similar view broken down by supplier, what we see is, this makes a lot of sense too, that the most successful suppliers, so the ones doing the most volume, you know, are typically on the shorter side of the average item lifespan. So they're constantly innovating, they're constantly changing the product. And that's, from where I sit as product manager, that's both really interesting and drives a lot of excitement and energy in our market. It's also really hard to stay on top of. That's why we meet twice a year to talk about what's new in the product portfolio, do this product showcase, tell you guys what's out there. We have to try and stay on top of all these things that are changing that quickly. Takeaways here: product life cycles in solar are short. And what I mean is, you know, product that we sell that's really solar specific, modules, inverters, versus tools and electrical hardware and wire. Like, wire doesn't really change. You know, we may change what we offer. We may have slightly different ratings on things, but you know, it's copper with insulation. You know, we may vary the ampacity that we carry, the length, the you know, white versus red versus blue, but that stuff really doesn't change. Again, I think that's part of the reason a lot of us are in solar, is that it's dynamic, it's exciting, and it keeps us on our toes. Alrighty, let's talk code for just a brief second. What are some of the code changes that are driving new product innovation in our market? NEC in 2017, the TIA that went into effect here at the beginning of the year, effectively requiring module level rapid shutdown in these impacted areas. Also, as we go through, you know, we've dealt with this as code that's new to everybody. We're also dealing with what I've got here is states that are in transition into 2017. These ones in orange here that are going to be newly adopting 2017. So some fairly significant solar states here. New Jersey, Florida, the Carolinas, and I know we saw some good policy news out of South Carolina this week. This is very impactful, and a lot of these we've covered, you know, quarters ago as the code was being adopted, but you know, it's really pushing a transition to both MLPE and module level rapid shutdown solutions in those areas. And I think the biggest impact that we're going to see is in the commercial space yet to come. Another big code and compliance change working its way through the system currently is California Rule 21. So phase one was, boy, what seems like years ago now. Phase two that came through this year, requiring installed inverters to be two-way communication capable. What I mean by that is, you know, communication through the inverter platform with a back end that can be accessed either directly from an entity through the manufacturer's portal or through a third-party aggregator. So basically what we're getting there is kind of laying the foundation, kind of laying out the breadcrumbs, if you will, for advanced communication through a grid operator, you know, an ISO, all the way down to individual systems. So, you know, layers of aggregation to monitor, layers of aggregation to kind of corral systems into nodes. Ultimately, I think we're all looking at a future where, you know, we'll have very advanced grid operation software that can dial up injected current, can dial up, you know, volt var, all of these different really specific tools that smart inverters can supply to help keep the grid operating at maximum efficiency. So very exciting. It's been a little laborious getting to this point, but we're getting there. Phase 3 is going to provide advanced functionality like remote disconnect, power controls, and you know, we'll see what comes next, both for California, Hawaii, and how other states outside of those two adopt these kind of parameters. But you know, for a reformed inverter guy like myself, pretty interesting to see all these theoretical things become codified, become implemented, and you know, hopefully in the next year or two, we're talking about how some of these ISOs and regulators and operators are using these tools to, you know, cut more fossil fuels out of the mix, be able to provide the same kind of base load and flexibility with, you know, hopefully, this is a bold statement, but really only using distributed energy resources. I think that's the nirvana for me. All right, so let's talk new products. What are we going to cover? A new call it platform from the Neon 2 and Neon R modules from LG. Spent a lot of time on SolarEdge SetApp inverters. So those are going to be newer or older to certain people on the phone, just depending on you know, how big your business is, how much residential you're doing, and possibly where you are in the country. The Simplify Phi battery, talk about that. Quick fit from Schneider Electric. What does that mean for our off-grid and grid-type battery backup installers? and the SMA Core commercial lineup. So spoke about this one last fall. Just want to do kind of a reminder. Also got kind of final part numbers and everything on those. So wanted to get that in front of everybody. All righty. What's new on the LG front? So pretty much their entire lineup and the product families from LG are Neon 2, which is going to be a 60-cell N-type N-type mono. These are traditionally ranging from 330 to 335, 340 watt class. You know, kind of their high volume products. The Neon R is going to be a similar cell, but with a back contact technology that removes the bus bars, or at least places them back behind the cell for a real sleek finish. So Neon 2, Neon R, both of those product lines have undergone a shift to a V5 platform. So what does that mean? So in addition to, kind of in parallel to moving production here to the United States, to Alabama, they've slightly changed, I believe, the back sheet to get some better efficiency. And I believe the back sheet change, really what that's impacting is the amount of refraction you're seeing from the back sheet to the edge and the underside of the cells. So that's improving degradation. That's also, I don't have it here, but that's also changing the PTC rating of these modules. So you look at the data sheets from the A5 line that we're transitioning off of and the V5 line, and the watt classes that at standard test conditions are going to be really similar. So 1,000 watts per square foot at 25 degrees ambient, basically at, you know, perfect, call it high noon conditions. Those values are going to be the same. So a 335 A5 is going to have the same STC performance as a 335 V5. Really what we're seeing in the transition to V5 is better PTC condition testing. So this is going to be great for overall production. You know, you see a jump here on the performance ratings at 25 years. So the kind of what's the guaranteed output of the product? You're going to see better PTC data. So what in practical applications, what are you going to see after you apply kind of normal conditions of solar, heat, etc. You're also going to see a slightly different frame. So all of the backsheet improvements to drive, I guess, yield would be a better way to put it rather than capacity. A slight change in the frame as well. So probably not going to be noticeable to a lot of folks. The older frame, the A5, had a 29 millimeter lip all the way around the underside. The new V5 has the same 29 millimeter lip here, or flange on the underside of the frame. On the long side, on the short side, it's going to be a little thinner, 22.5. So there may be some edge cases where there's some impact of using something like a universal end clamp, or I believe Iron Ridge has something called Camo. If you're using those, you know, hidden or universal end clamps to grab the underside of the lip in landscape orientation, there may be some impact there. I think some folks are looking at that. But really, you know, no changes to anything frame related. No changes to the 2703 certifications that I'm aware of. Really just an improvement. Again, this coincides with this module being made in Alabama now. So it qualifies for Buy America. You know, may give you guys some better marketing angles on how you position this product against SunPower or Panasonic, et cetera. But we've got these in stock, and it's LG. You know, you can bank on the name. You can bank on the company, and it's a great product. I've actually got Neon 2s on my house. So, but don't take it from me, as we would say. SolarEdge setup inverters. So this is a pretty big transition. This is one where, you know, I was thinking back to, geez, like it feels, we first heard of this in January, that this was going to be happening, and it really felt like, well, didn't we just get a completely transition to HD Wave here? Like, how long ago was that? Well, it was a year and a half. So what is setup? Setup is kind of the next iteration of HD Wave, the next set of improvements. Really, and I should have had an image of an HD Wave inverter here as well. It's really the same footprint, going to be the same chassis. I believe almost the exact same internals with a couple key differences. One, sharp viewers at home will notice there's no LCD screen here. So they've eliminated that. They've also eliminated the touch buttons. The big improvement here, they've installed a Wi-Fi radio, and you've now got quick and easy commissioning over a smartphone app. So those of you that have installed SolarEdge in the past, great product, flexible, gives a lot of kind of design creativity. I don't know anybody that really liked commissioning a SolarEdge inverter between the buttons and the SD card. Stories of SD cards getting thrown away in the box or lost, or you name it. So that process is gone. Commissioning via the smartphone app. It's quick, it's easy. Gotten some good comment on it so far. So that's what's different. What's the same? It's going to be the same footprint. Most of your same, knockout conduit locations, same kind of wattage and power class lineup. Really, again, eliminating the LCD screen, simplifying the Wi-Fi commissioning. I will say, and I'll go back a slide here, you've still got an optional revenue grade metering, optional GSM or Zigbee connectivity, kind of however you want to tap into this inverter for monitoring. I will say both of those things are different from the previous version. So different GSM cards, different Zigbees. So those have transitioned as well. Go back here. I threw some screenshots up here of the app from the installation manual. By all accounts, this looks to be a very easy process. They really simplified this on feedback from you guys that, hey, great product, but we could probably be a little quicker here. So we've got the full lineup in stock now. Very limited availability of the older, call it older, it was a year and a half of the older HD Wave lineup. But give us a call, reach out to your salesperson if there's specific needs of jobs that, hey, I permitted this way. Absolutely have to have these. We do have a letter of, what's the term? Basically a letter attesting to the setup inverters are electrically the same as the HD Wave. Compatibility, I guess, is probably the best way to say that. So we've got you covered on the paperwork front. If there are any jobs where you feel like you've permitted it one way and you've got to install to a variance. The Simplify 5 battery. So, this is one that's been in the market for a little while before we were able to really jump on it. We're now offering this as a dropship product. It's a really solid battery that's been around and, has a lot of I don't want to say diehards, but a lot of committed installers behind it who, really kind of see the value that Simplify has talked about with this. What do we talk about? Easy paralleling. It's a drop-in lead acid replacement. It really, pardon the pun, it's really hard not to, but it really simplified the process of getting better lithium-ion chemistry into kind of existing systems or systems built around equipment that was designed for lead acid. So that's a really awkward way of saying, Outback, Schneider Electric, Magnum, systems really built around 48 volt lead acid now have an easy plug and play lithium ion option. So that's available. We've talked about this a little bit. Great product. We see a lot of good things on. So wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. The SMA commercial lineup. So this is going to be the extension of the Core One platform that came out. I guess when did we start carrying the first Core 150? Probably early to mid 2017. So they've already extended the lineup. They're already basically on the second generation. The Dash 41 being the indicator there that there's some incremental improvements over the Dash 40. So the big additions to the lineup here, the 33 kW unit and the 62. So why a 33? Well, you still see globally some places where incentives and programs have this magical 100 kW nameplate capacity threshold. So I've seen this in Australia. I've seen it other places in the globe where some of these incentives and financial vehicles are more attractive with slightly less than 100 kW than they are over 100 kW. So, kind of some gamesmanship here, but 333s will keep you under 100, and 250s would put you into the next classification. Also, it gives you a little more flexibility on sizing above 100 kW. So if you had, maybe a 130 kW project or 120, or you had some interesting, kind of size limitations or array layout, just a lot more flexibility. And again, kind of some gamesmanship there on the 100 kW threshold. The 50 kW dash 41 going to be the extension of the prior product. The dash 41, some of the big improvements there, basically SunSpec compliant. So you'd be allowed to use the TS4 -R-F, which I think we'll be talking about this in a couple more months, that we'll have a TS4-A lineup. So not R-F, but -A. It's beginning to feel in some respects like Wheel of Fortune here with all these just letters and things, but we'll have a new platform there. All the same great features from the core 150, all the great install flexibility, the multiple MPPT channels, the ease of install. They've basically upgraded to be SunSpec compliant, and the the 62 kW unit here. So lastly, just a little more power out of the same basic platform. If you've got large arrays, or you're aiming for a 180, 200 plus kW system, if you've got the ability to lay it out in such a way, can be a little more cost effective. Basically, putting a little bit more wattage through the same amount of connections and wiring, I guess I'd say. So great extension of that platform. Happy to see this. We've got these on order, and have seen a lot of great numbers on the Core 50, and I expect to see the same on the 62. So kind of what we talked about: compact footprint for roof mount, without the need in ground mount application, without the need for a concrete pad. I think this is the best part of this inverter is 12 string inputs on 6 MPPT channels. Some of those can be paralleled if needed, but really getting close to the functionality of an MLP or an optimized system with all the benefits of the string inverter. Integrated disconnect, a really efficient overall design. I wanted to speak here a little bit on inverter efficiency. I led off by saying, we kind of asked ourselves, or I asked myself, how much more efficient can we get? Are we getting to the theoretical maximum? And I think I don't want to say we're plateauing, but we're getting to the point where the improvements are smaller and smaller. But thinking about inverter efficiency on some of these large projects, the difference between 98% CEC efficiency and 99, think about a percentage point across, in this instance, using this product, across a megawatt. Think about all of the value that would accrue from that next percentage efficient. It's worth it, right? So that's why everybody's trying. That's why there's kind of people are pulling out all the stops to try to get to that next incremental improvement on inverter efficiency. It's a lot of big numbers, right? So that's the SMA commercial platform. Schneider Electric Connects QuickFit. That's a mouthful. This is a product we've talked about a little bit in our off-grid series and our What's New in Off-Grid. Pre-wires in general are a great way to add value for you guys to save installation time, installation headaches. We've seen them over the past couple years from Outback Power, from Midnight. Midnight's had a great lineup of pre-wired products. You see some folks in the channel that take on that role as well, that will, basically serve as equipment integrators and ship to installers like you guys, and ship you a kind of pre-wired, pre-configured, pre-installed, I don't want to call it just a panel, but, solution. What's the value in that? I think the biggest thing is saving installation time and cost, and really, the reduction of the possibility of gotchas. So what do I mean by that? Let's imagine a situation where you've got a customer, they've got a cabin, or maybe it's on a ranch. My point there is it's more than an hour's drive from your shop, and it's probably not located conveniently next to a solar distributor either. You've got all the equipment, you've ordered it, you've kind of consolidated orders from Schneider Electric, and you've got your wire and your components and your fittings. You think you've got everything. You get out there, you start installing, and you realize, oh, I forgot a fitting, or I'm missing a Cat5 cable, or I don't have, I've only got 10 feet of number 8 on my truck, and I need 2 more feet. Like, you're removing all of that guesswork. You're also taking, how do I want to put this? You're taking the labor cost, and you're taking it off of your books and on, under Schneider Electric's. And what I mean by that, the big improvement there is, you don't have 2 or 3 or 4 guys on the job site waiting for one person to wire up the charge controller to the inverter, or to wire up the battery monitor, etc. All that's done when you get there. You've basically got, the hard work when you get there of array, of home runs, of wiring up loads. You take out all the guesswork. You take out all the skilled labor, if you will, on wiring this up and kind of pre-wiring it, pre-configuring it. Broad range of options here. MPPT 60 or MPPT 80 charge controllers across, I believe, 4 different inverters. So it's a lot of SKUs, but should have a solution for just about any installation. Really sturdy backplate with some pretty well thought out lifting capability of kind of how do you get this up, how do you hang it on the wall. It's heavy. There's no 2 ways about that. But ships in really sturdy packaging, screw-in handles or attached lifting rings for actually getting it hung. You're not going to have to rely on just, go get 3 people and crowbars. They've actually thought this through and made it easy for you guys. So the number of steps here, I had to look through the installation manual because I wanted to see for myself and, kind of parse through it and, okay, this and this and this. Is that really it? Did I miss something? It's really 3 steps. You've got AC wires from your, your grid if you have one, line 1, line 2 neutral, your battery leads to your array, connect your PV, everything. That's enough to get you installed and commissioned. From there, of course, you've got to install your loads to your distribution panel. But to get the system commissioned, it's really 3 steps. I was surprised to see that. So that about wraps us up. We've got some new products that are on the horizon. Not yet in our system, not yet quotable. Obviously not on our shelves. But what are we going to be looking at? So I believe there will be at least one more SolarEdge commercial optimizer by the time we meet next. I say that knowing that we've had a little bit of transition on the commercial optimizers the last 6 or 9 months, from a P800P, there's a P850 offering, there's a P860. I've got a hard time keeping track of it, so I'm sure you guys do as well. We are looking at a Sunny Boy refresh. That should say Q3. It's a typo there, but the same kind of benefits we saw in moving the commercial lineup from Dash 40 to Dash 41, we'll see that on the residential Sunny Boys as well. We'll have some updated battery lineup from Outback. So we'll probably see by the next time we meet the end of life on the 200NC, and we'll probably see its replacement, which I believe is going to be called an HLC. Haven't seen the final data sheet on that, so I'll leave that as a cliffhanger. Let's put it that way. And I think at this point, Caitlin, we've got I know we've got time. The question is, have we had any questions?
Yeah, let me go ahead and go through some items here really quickly. So thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. Great information that you had to share. So I'd like to go ahead and start off our question and answer session now. If you do have a question, please go ahead and submit that question in the question pane located on your control panel. And again, we'll try to answer as many possible questions before the end of the hour here. You can exit the webinar at any time during or following the question and answer session. And again, a survey will pop up. If you want to go ahead and answer those questions and give us your feedback, I will send you the presentation after it has started. All right, so pull this up. So it looks like a lot of them were just thank yous for sharing the